The world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, InRavio can get your message out there. And we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is InRavio.com.
Welcome to tonight's edition of Nerdgasm. I am your host, Dave Canfield, and I am here with the very lovely JoJo.
Hi, Dave.
Hey. And tonight we are going to be delving, this is our third summer movie edition, and that is going to be, I hear a little echo of myself. Does anybody else hear that, or is it my imagination? My imagination. Okay, I'm only hearing my earpiece right here. So, tonight is our third summer movie edition. We are going to be talking about Dawn of the Planet of the Apes versus Transformers 4, both big box office smashes that are out at your local multiplexes. And our guest tonight is Adam Gertler, who hosted a few programs on the Food Network and now hosts is a host on FX TV, on FX Download, I believe is the name of his program. He does all of the introductions to movies playing on FX, like, you know, when Iron Man plays, he's giving you trivia about Iron Man. So tune in, he's going to be coming in a little bit, but first we're going to be delving into our reviews. So, one little item before we get into our scurrilous reviews is in this month's edition of Phantom of the Movies Videoscope, if you turn to page, I don't know, like 12, 13, 14.
He knows what page it is.
Page 15, you get a review of my latest production, Caesar and Otto's Deadly Xmas, so it's on stands now. Go check it out. It's Videoscope. You don't have to buy it. Just check it out. Read the review. Okay. So this summer, my concern was that I think I became too lax of a film goer. Like I think I was liking everything I saw. I saw maybe 9 movies. And I thought that my ability to discern quality or not kind of disappeared. You know, it's like maybe I just like everything now. But that notion disappeared last night when I watched Transformers 4. Now, my estimation of the series is I like the first film. I really do like the first film. But since then, Michael Bay is a very special filmmaker. I'm gonna say that.
His mommy probably told him that too.
And whereas there are things that I like Transformers. The good news, I was expecting to hate this film, and I took lovely JoJo last night. And I was expecting, I'm like, I don't want to see this. I was dragging my feet because I heard such awful things about it. And the good news is about like halfway through the film, I was liking it. And I thought that it had a good pace. It went back to what I liked about the first film. But then the rest of the film happened. It's not to say that the first half was perfect, but I liked what I saw. I am hearing such an echo on my ear, so control room is going to have to give me hand signals if they want to tell me something.
I'm hearing it too.
So now, Matt, in control room, if a good film director could be, if a filmmaker's work can be summed up in terms of music, if you have a wonderful piece of could we throw up? I grabbed a piece of music from Chopin last night off the internet. If we could throw that up on the screen, I want to use this as an example of a very artful filmmaker how a very artful filmmaker would convey his thoughts. Okay, so I think he's trying to locate it. So let's say a great filmmaker is I have no image. It's coming up. It's coming up. All right. If a great filmmaker can be summed up by, I am so, I need this image to make my point. He's getting it. He's getting it. So if Michael Bay was a composer, this is the metaphor I'm making. Say your average great composer lays out his notes in a very harmonious order, where every note has a certain amount of space between each other. And every note in and of itself sounds well, but when put in unison in a certain order and a certain pace, creates something profound. Now, if you look at an example of Chopin's piece of music, this metaphor is going to have to wait. Hey, there we go. Okay, now this is an example of a wonderful piece of music, how the notes are arranged, there's harmony, there's one note at a time, or two or three. But if Michael Bay was a composer, his musical work might look a little more something like this, if we could throw that out. So now, all of those musical notes in and of themselves might sound good, but when it comes to like playing them all at the same time, it loses a lot. I think he's so impressed with trying to wow you that it loses, the story loses the flow. I think as a filmmaker, the idea is to have your highs, to have your lows, to spread them out accordingly. And I think he gives you everything, especially in the second half of this film. He's given you everything at once. He's given you like, to the point where there's always a moment in most Michael Bay films, or two or three, where I get completely lost in the action, and I stop caring. I stop watching it very passively, and I don't care anymore. You know, and that happened, I think, when Stanley Tucci's character more or less temporarily became the protagonist in the movie. And I just kind of leaned over to JoJo and I said, you know, I'm getting kind of bored, you know, because I didn't really care what was going on. And Bay is a technical whiz, but without a smoother ability to convey the stories, without knowing when to take beats, it just becomes an exercise in flashing lights and gunfire and moving colors, and you know, it doesn't. It's very. I have a very difficult time caring about what's really happening, and you know, which is a shame. I bet you, like 10 years from now, you know, Michael Bay is obviously one of the most successful filmmakers there is out there, but he's going to have his straight story anytime, because he gets these. I mean, he's loved by some and, you know, despised by others, and I bet you in a few years he's going to prove everybody wrong. You know, all the critics that say he can't tell a story well, and he's going to do some quaint little story about characters that might have some effects in it and show what he's made of. But as of right now, it's sort of commercialism at its least effective. You know, because I saw a bunch of films. Like, you know, we saw Maleficent this year. We saw X-Men. We saw big budget Hollywood films, but they had much more of a heart. They had a humanity, and they had such a flow to it. You know, whereas if you bombard the audience so much, you know, then you know you're just going to stop caring. What bothered me was that after this film was over, and this happened at the end of Transformers 2. And I like Transformers going up. I like playing with Transformers. I love the cartoon of Transformers. I even like the first film. But when Transformers 2 was over, and I sat in my seat like this for most of Transformers 2, sinking in my seat lower and lower. And then the audience at the end, I'm like, oh, thank God, it's over. And they applauded. And I went, what? What's the matter with you people?
Are we talking about last night?
No, that's what happened at the end, too. Now, last night, in the movie theater of 10, I am there. And then the same thing, it's a repeat of the same thing. Like, the audience, because I'm getting through the ending of the film. This 2-hour and 45-minute movie.
Sorry,
Why? 2 hours and 45 minutes? He has no focus. It's like there is an inability to really discern what your story is about. And you wind up just with this extremely bloated mass of a movie that has more subplots than it has. Michael Bay really needs to know how to focus his stories, because as of right now, he's so interested in creating visual flair that that the story loses its focus and then some. So the audience applauded last night, the 10 people that were there. And I looked at JoJo. I went, "What? Boo!" And I started booing at the top of my lungs, and she's embarrassed to be with me.
Oh my God, stop it, you're embarrassing me.
I was like,
thank God there was only 10 people in the audience.
Like, oh, and then they gave me a defiant clap again. I'm like, "Boo!" even louder. And because of people, I saw 9 films this summer. Nobody applauded at the end of end. They applauded at the end of this one, the worst film I've seen all summer.
Maybe they were like, "Yay, it's over."
That could be it. That could be it. But I mean, here's the truth. I don't hate this film. This film to me is a 5 out of 10. It's just a middling film, and I give it a 5 out of 10 in part because Lockdown was really cool. Lockdown was cool, was well executed. There was a couple of really neat scenes in there. The first half had these great vistas, and it had some character development, even though that the substance of the lead female was pretty much like, "Guys, when we get out of school, we're gonna get drunk and get tan." That was about the level of substance of the female character, and the female character pretty much was Michael Bay. It was a Michael Bay female at its worst. It's basically, there's a certain kind of look, and the acting style seems to be just a matter of kind of looking cool as your hair blows. It's all like, the acting, like when it comes to an actress like that, I think is more about just looking good on camera and not so much really getting into the heart of who the character is. Not that there was really much on the page, but as I rant, I want to hear some of what was going through your. Lockdown says something. By the way, Lockdown was really cool. What Lockdown in the chat room says, at 2 hours and 45 minutes, it officially crosses over into Stockholm Syndrome. Yeah, I mean, this film, if there's a reboot, Michael Bay must be given a restraining order against everybody working in the film because I want no influence. This film can be rebooted. It could be like the Transformers that I grew up with. It could be an awesome freaking film, as opposed to, I don't know what this has become, and I don't know why Michael Bay keeps getting hired. And as I say, Michael Bay in another few years is going to make this film that's going to blow us away and be the anti-Bay film, because he technically knows as much about filmmaking as anybody, but just doesn't seem to be quite capable of playing those notes in a harmonious rhythm. This movie is the cinematic equivalent of white bread. It's consumed by the masses. Everybody buys it, but it's filled with air and unhealthy and has no nutrition whatsoever. But it's the biggest grossing film of the summer. Go figure. Now, Jojo, before I make some more points on the film, I would love to hear your points, some of the things that were going through your mind as we were watching this film.
Well, I mean, you say it's like white bread. I say it's like a bag of potato chips. You get so excited you want to try this new bag or new flavor of potato chips, and then you eat it, and you're so regretful. Because it's one big empty bag of crap. I just realized that there was no high and low notes. There was no substance. Even Optimus, there was really nothing for him to add emotion to. I mean, I don't know. There was really just a bunch of explosions, and after a while, it's really hard to follow.
Yeah.
They make it a little bit easier as far as, I guess, making the cars maybe like a solid boulder, where you're like, oh, I'm following this all fluorescent green mass of metal or whatever it is, and they slowed it down at certain points, which I feel like they could have done even more. The slowing down of things definitely helps, because we can't see things that fast. We can't follow things that are going that fast, and even some of the camera angles where I'm feeling like, this probably would have worked if it was a little wider. I feel like it's too close into the action. I can't see what's going on. All there is just moving parts of this and that, and then they used really far shots in places where I could have been closer up, and it was just kind of confusing.
But PJG in the chat room does write that the explosions are actually metaphors for things blowing up. It's deep.
Right, because the fireworks, let's say fireworks, because to me, when I'm looking at the explosions, all I'm seeing are mortar shells and fancy fireworks. It didn't look like explosions to me. They looked like fireworks.
What I felt like is, I think that these films are made to make money. Yeah, I don't know how much passion that they have to make good films. Maybe Bane is hard. He's really trying to make a good film. But I feel like the writing process of this film consisted of this. Bay sitting in the room with his writer holding him at gunpoint saying, write something. I'm like, I can't, I don't have any ideas. It doesn't matter, write something. But nothing makes any sense. I'll make it make sense. Now just keep writing. The beginning of time, dinosaurs, seed, this sucks, I can't do anything about it. And then he's like, I don't care, I'll make it work. Look, we have a deadline. And that's pretty much the writing process of these films. I at least the recent ones.
I like the Dinobots. They were pretty cool.
Dinobots were cool, but again, you get into that notion of why is this happening? What is this again? Like, where are they? How do they wind up there? I mean, Rise. We're going to get into Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. I had no difficulty in any way following that storyline as far as why people were doing what they were doing. It had a focus. It had a reason why a clear reason why things are happening. I'm sure there was justifications for what was happening in Transformers. And the scenes, if you were to look at any individual scene, in and of themselves, they're pretty good. But when you jumble them together, that's why I made the metaphor on musical notes. All those musical notes sound good by themselves, but if you just throw them together, it lacks something, and you're not really, using your skills as a storyteller as you could. And Dawn, Planet of the Apes really knew how to take pauses. It really knew how to tell its story. And by the way, there's a scene in this movie where he's Lockdown says, wait, the Dinobots were in this film? I went to the bathroom near the end, and it seemed like I might have missed them. Yeah, they were kept a minimum. By the way, the CGI dinosaurs, Jurassic Park was 20 years ago. The dinosaurs looked more realistic than this film 20 years later. I don't understand how that's possible, because there is little indication of dinosaurs. How did the special effects go backward? Timmy Packer says, how can I be a no-class talent and make millions of dollars by destroying people's beloved childhood toys? Well, you go by the name of Michael Bay. It's rough. I mean, we shouldn't really cry for Michael Bay because he's a very rich man. But it just seems like when audiences see these films en masse, and I really did not want to see this, but it applauds and it welcomes more films that are fairly inferior to other epic films. And I bet you in a few years. I remember when Schumacher took over the Batman films, I'm like, this is an amazing step down, but this is successful. And then Nolan came along and completely reinvented it. So I'm hoping that there's a similar type of reinvention. I don't mean darker, I just mean more focused by a different filmmaker who gives it his own flair and something more akin to what I remember as a kid. Because that was something special. It's great that they use the same voice from the cartoons. What were you noticing about the product placement?
I just kept pointing and laughing and pinching you. I was like, oh, look, as he's picking up a bottle of Bud Light. And oh, look at that Victoria's Secret border. And oh, look at those Gucci sunglasses. It's like...
You just feel the advertising dollars being spent, which is not really where your attention should be.
I mean, I remember saying something to you about, sometimes I like the product placement because it makes you feel like it's a normal situation, because everyday life we pass by advertisements and products and but then you pointed out how you're like, yeah, but they're getting paid for it.
Sure.
So it's kind of like, it's like they're selling out a little bit, I guess.
By the way, Mark Wahlberg has a scene when he's talking to, and it's a lot of obligatory it's a lot of obligatory family drama because it needs to be there. And it sticks out. It feels like soap opera in some respects. But there's a scene where he tells his daughter, who's 17, look, I don't want you spending your prom the way that I did. And it cut to a picture of him on the wall where he's holding a baby. He seems to have been 39 years old when he went to high school. He looks exactly the same in his picture from high school as he did standing across the room from the photograph.
Dave's like, what is he, 40 when he was in high school?
Don't you remember when your mother went to, your mother had you when we were in high school last month? So I have droids, I mean, this is a film that deals with robots, and it's hard to make, to bring the emotional relatability to something so fantastical. But, think of the Iron Giant. Think of the droids in Star Wars. Think of even Short Circuit, for crying out loud, that you felt more of a connection. Well, I certainly did. And with these creatures, I don't think I felt a connection with any of these type of characters since the first film with Bumblebee. And you felt like, I liked Bumblebee.
I was so excited to see Bumblebee. I was like, and you see the yellow Camaro, and I was like, yay! And I look over at you, and you're like, aw, baby.
So now I would like to shift review from Transformers 4, my least favorite film of the summer, to Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, my favorite film of the summer. These films do roughly the same thing. They are big, epic blockbusters, but go about that deal with non-human characters.
Johnny Five is alive.
Yeah, so they deal with non-human characters, but what Dawn does, Dawn is a work of art. Transformers 4 is a 5 out of 10. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes is a 10 out of 10. I gave Rise of the Planet of the Apes a 10 out of 10. This is The Empire Strikes Back. I love Star Wars. Empire Strikes Back is that one step above it, in my opinion. And that's what Dawn is. It manages to take these characters that, that are apes, they're CGI apes, and you feel what they go through. You get the reality of the situation despite the fantasy of it. All the characters are very well-rounded. They're not stock. Transformers might have had some good performances in there. Kelsey Grammer, Stanley Tucci. This one had great performances. And you follow. There wasn't a moment in this film that I was bored. It had the scope. It had all of the things that I expect and hope for in a blockbuster. And never did I think to myself, okay, this is just a stupid movie with a lot of cool visuals. By the way, I call it right now, this is the winner of the Academy Award for Best Special Effects next year. No, without a doubt. It's going to pick up the award, mark my words. I see nothing coming that's going to top this in terms of effects. And, it's not to say that it's perfect. There are, especially visually, because there's scenes where you can tell, okay, you're looking at CGI. There's scenes in every film that we've loved that has weaker effects. But for the most part, this is some of the best CGI I've ever seen. And it's the perfect use of it. When characters interact, it really feels like they're speaking to each other. Sometimes in a CGI film, it's almost like you feel that disconnect between the actors. I'm going to toss it over to you for a second, Madame Jojo, to get your point of view on that.
Well, I really liked the little details. The father-son relationship was really beautiful. He ends up getting a little maimed in the beginning, and he's like, oh, scars make you strong. Scars make you strong.
Yeah.
And it actually helped out a lot because he was made more distinguishable throughout the entire movie because you're like, oh, the one with the scars. Now that's Caesar's son.
Right. And that's a good point, too. But
Yeah.
do you notice, this story, one of the things that this added in contrast to Transformers 4 is that you had a very organic story. I get why this is all happening. It just doesn't feel like you're looking at action scenes for the sake of action scenes. There's a real flow to the set of events. Okay, cause and effect, which is the whole foundation of screenwriting. That everything, unfolds in a very logical way, regardless of how fantastical the setting might be. And there was that, and there was that heart, which we didn't have the other time out. Do you feel that, I feel like Transformers 4 had a bigger scope in terms of, well, okay, this is going to be ultimately about blowing up the world. Rise of Planet of the Apes is dealing with a community. But yet, a story that's ultimately smaller winds up being so much bigger in terms of how involved I was with it. And I greatly look forward. Matt Reeves is the director of this thing. He previously did Cloverfield. I wasn't a fan of Cloverfield. He did Let Me In, which I did really like, and now this is his best film, and I really look forward. And I was surprised, I was a little cautious because Rupert Wyatt was the director of Rise, and he got released due to artistic disagreements. Sometimes that's not a good sign. And here, Reeves went one step further somehow. It's a much bigger film, by the way. So Rise is, deals with a lot of human. This is 4 times the scope of what you saw in Rise. And hats off, 10 out of 10. How do you feel?
I thought it was a 9 out of 10. It was really good.
And what about Transformers?
6 out of 10.
Okay.
I think I'm being generous.
Yeah, you see, but I think I almost intimidated you into being a little hard on it because I go off on this rant. I'm like, what do you think about it? And you're like, oh yeah, yeah, it wasn't very good.
At one point I really, I started getting bored myself, and I'm like, okay, it's just explosions and Transformers flying through the air, and I don't know, it was just not enough real acting or anything going on that was of any substance that you just wanted to continue watching, like in Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, but what's interesting is that when you look at the CGI robots in Transformers, it's hard to get emotionally involved in them. You look at the CGI apes, and orangutans. I mean, the orangutans looked amazing. It looks completely. It's even better than the apes. The way that they're how completely convincing it is. And the levels of the characters that they had. You have one-dimensional Transformers and you have three-dimensional apes.
Yeah.
Go figure. So it is the movie of the summer. I cannot imagine even Guardians of the Galaxy topping this, but I could eat my words. We'll see. And so we're going to continue talking about summer movies with our special guest, Adam Gertler. So stay tuned. We're going to have a lot more show in store for you.
Stay tuned.
InRavio.com. For over 60 years, Hanson Carpet has put the customer first, providing only the finest quality products and service. And Hanson Carpet is so much more than just carpet. We also carry a wide selection of window blinds and shades, and our licensed and insured technicians can service any of your flooring or window covering needs. Browse our huge selection of laminate, carpet, linoleum, vinyl, and tile. Stop by our showroom today or visit HansonCarpet.com. No matter what your project, Hanson Carpet has got you covered.
Transmission of lice occurs from being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Like catching a cold or a flu.
You have guaranteed peace of mind in every bottle of Got Lice because all of our products are completely natural.
And organic.
But strong enough to cover all your lice removal needs while being safe and effective. Our professional technicians are specially trained with our exclusive proven technique to successfully comb out head lice. We come right to your home at your convenience.
Whenever you want us.
We bring everything needed to perform a successful and complete comb out while eliminating your head lice. And we leave you with our exclusive complimentary products to use for the next 10 days following our treatment.
For free.
Our technicians also check all family members who have been exposed to lice. Please visit us on our website today at gotlice.co or feel free to call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at 646-257-0121.
Hey, this is Chris Less Jake, and if InRavio.com spots you at an event wearing this bracelet, they will give you $100.
The world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, InRavio can get your message out there, and we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is InRavio.com. Paul Brown and the Killing Devils. Alternative progressive rock like you've never heard before. Over 1 million views on YouTube. New York City Village Voice says Paul is a gifted singer, songwriter, and musician with one of the best progressive rock bands on the planet. LA Underground Music Exchange calls him the only modern American band to cover every genre well. Pick up the albums Black Widow Tears, Red Spider, and The Wizard's Dawn, now on iTunes. And get to facebook.com/Killing Devils to keep up with the latest info. InRavio.com.
Welcome back to Nerdgasm. I'm joined by my special guest tonight, Adam Gertler, who is the host of FX Movie Download. Have I got that correct, Adam? Do I have the title correct?
You do have the title correct. Can you hear me okay?
Now I can hear you. I had advertisements blasting in my ears, so you're looking at me saying things that I had no idea what the hell you were saying. So now you heard the first half of the show, and tell me, am I right in your estimation? Am I wrong? I mean, how do you feel about those two summer movies that we talked about so far?
Well, I wish I could be more controversial and disagree with you more, but I pretty much agree with you on just about every point you said.
Good, I like you.
I'm a huge comic book movie fan. I was a huge Transformers fan growing up as well. We've actually done some of the Transformers movies on FX Movie Download, and there's certainly something to be remarked about. They make an enormous amount of money. In answer to your question, why does Michael Bay keep getting hired? It has something to do with several billions of dollars. Right. I think that might have something to do with it.
Right. Well, I'll put it this way: they would still make all of that money, but probably a little more customer satisfaction if they went in a different direction, or at least had another producer to muscle down.
I hear you, but yet the studio is probably saying, "Hey, if it ain't broke, why fix it?" You know what I mean?
Well, maybe this time out, after they get an average 3 out of 10 review from the critics, they might. I mean, can't they lock Bay in a room and say, "Hey, Mike, we really want this one to be good. Could you try a little?" There's got to be something. Hire a different screenwriter, change the team up a little bit. So, because in the long run, it's going to be higher consumer satisfaction. That's what it's all about. After all.
I agree, and you're right. This summer has been unbelievable for blockbuster movies, and I'm so excited. We still have Guardians to look forward to. So it's almost like, I was really hopeful. I'm like, you know what? This time, they're not going to get me again. They're going to make a good Transformers movie.
and the trailers
they
are
got
good.
Me again, and it was awful. And it was 2 hours and 45 minutes of it was long, man. It was longer than it had any business being. But, man, when you had that X-Men movie and you had the Apes movie and Captain America and Godzilla and Guardians coming out, what a freaking summer this has been.
Even 22 Jump Street, one after the other.
Yeah, but I want to.
Oh, my God.
Okay,
So
you're going to if you like the first one, you're absolutely going to like the second one.
Yeah.
So now here's some questions I have for you. And I know you first and foremost as an actor. That's how I met you years and years ago. You were this whiz kid, Marvel actor here on Long Island, and so then how did you find yourself as a chef down in Philly? Because I know for a while you've been involved in food, and you're still involved with that. How did that happen?
It's an interesting story. I was pursuing acting like many people do. I was out in California at some point after being in New York. And I just, I discovered I had this passion for food. I was really into it. At some point, my brother, who I had done a lot of cooking with, like a lot of barbecue with, he and a partner got it together, and they got a loan to open a barbecue restaurant. And I was really into barbecue. And at the time, I wasn't like a regular on Law & Order. So I was like, you know what? This is something else that I love. Let me pursue that and see where it goes. So I left Los Angeles and moved to Philadelphia. And we had a restaurant called The Smoke Joint, a barbecue experience for a couple years. That was great. And then I was living in Philly after that. The restaurant closed. I actually started acting again in Philly, doing industrials and theater in Philly. And then I got onto this show called The Next Food Network Star. Somebody I was working at another restaurant with told me about this reality show. And I'm like, all right. And I guess between the acting and the restaurant, it all kind of came together. And then I did that show. And then after that show, they gave me my own show. and then I moved back to Los Angeles. So, and now I'm kind of doing a show about movies again. So I don't know what the hell's going on, man.
So here's a question for you. Do you still remember when we did that short film all those years ago? Do you still remember your dialogue?
Oh,
James McDillon.
Yes, I was a bratty like child actor, right? Or something.
Right.
Yeah, and let me just say, but you picked a bone with Mark Wahlberg and his high school picture being 40. You look exactly the freaking same as you did in high school. Okay? So
Well,
you're
Mark
your own
Wahlberg-
worst argument against that.
Yeah, Mark Wahlberg doesn't exactly. He didn't look like that back then. We know his high school days because they're notoriously splashed across billboards.
That's true.
So now, how exactly did your Food Network lead to hosting the show on FX? I mean, like, did they see you and you're like, we like this guy?
Well, no, I think it was just I'd done a couple of shows on Food Network, and then I did a show on Destination America, and you got things out here called agents that help you get jobs for things.
Agents? I need one of those.
Agents, yeah, like from The Matrix, they're agents, and
they offered you the blue or the red pill, and you chose the witch. So
I always forget which is the good one. I always forget which pill is which.
I don't know anymore.
They're both the same.
What?
You take them both. So you watch what happens.
Are you saying there is no spoon?
No. That's right. Unless you're Yuri Geller.
No, so I had an agent. My agent is a hosting agent. She specializes in hosting, and that's kind of what I had started to do. Even though I was doing food stuff, I wasn't really cooking on a lot of those shows. I was more hosting. And I told my agent, I'm like, look, I'm into some other things besides food. I'm really into movies and pop culture and comics. I would love to go out for some things that are non-food related. And then I went out for this thing called FX Movie Download, which is an update of what used to be called DVD on TV. And we had several callbacks. And then eventually I got it. And, they paired me up with this girl, Sasha Pro Raver, who is she was a film critic on news out here. She had actually also been coincidentally on the Food Network as well on Private Chefs of Beverly Hills.
Your Food Network stars are like moving up. Who would have thought that would have been like the beginning of like a whole exciting career. By the way, I saw you on TV the other week. I was flipping by the channels and I was like, that's Adam Gertler.
Yeah.
He's hosting this show. I am so jealous. I hate him.
Yes.
Hey, let me give him a call. Hey, Adam, you want to come on the show? I like him again.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, it is.
So, I'm jealous, man.
Calls, you answer.
I'm pretty damn jealous. You're doing great, man. So what is it like, when you're behind the scenes of FX Movie Download? Mm-hmm. What is it like, how much time ahead do they give you the script, the factoids? You just show up that day and you're like, here.
It all starts with we get the Blu-rays of the movies in the mail. We watch the movies. We have our own thoughts about the movies. Then we all get together with the people that write on the show and produce the show. And then Sasha and I give our feelings about the movies, and then we kind of come up with what can be the segments based on what the Blu-ray features offer, what we're allowed to use. We're not always allowed to use everything from the features. And then sometimes when we're really lucky, we get to talk to people from the movie. For example, this Friday on FX, 8 p.m., we're showing Mr. and Mrs. Smith, the Doug Liman film written by Simon Kinberg, who also wrote the new X-Men Days of Future Past. And we got to talk to him. So that was a huge thrill, because I think Mr. and Mrs. Smith is actually a really good movie. X-Men I thought was great. And he's also the writer of the new Fantastic Four reboot.
And I believe he's involved in Star Wars, isn't he? He's involved in Star Wars spin-offs.
Yeah, I believe it's more the animated thing that's going on right now.
Right. No, he's in charge of like one of the spin-offs, my friend. You didn't drill him on this? And you're like, you didn't like push him up against a corner and say, okay, what's the deal? Star Wars spin-off, I want to know what you're making.
I only had chance to frisk him for one thing, and I asked him about Thing in Fantastic Four. I love Star Wars, but my loyalties are to Marvel first. So I'm like, is Thing going to be CG in this thing or what? Because I don't think we could get away with a guy in a suit again. And he agreed with me, so they scrapped the plans for the guy in the suit, and now on the new Josh Trank-directed film, because of my suggestion, I believe the Thing will be a CG creation. We have a question from the chat room that lovely JoJo is going to fill us
He's going to fill us in on
It's already scrolled
once she
up.
finds it.
Timmy Packer says, I've got an important question for Adam. As the host, why is there no Caesar and Otto movies playing during the show?
Why is there no what?
Caesar and Otto
Oh.
movies playing during the show.
The Caesar. No, I'm just hearing about those now. I just I have to pick up that magazine and get the review of the latest one.
I'm sure Dave will send you a
I'll
copy.
just email that to you. Question I
But
have.
also, Dave, I wanted to say, we were talking about those summer movies, and like, while I was a huge fan of Transformers growing up, those movies haven't really hit the mark for me, even though they got Peter Cullen to voice Prime. I mean, there were good things about them, and certainly the effects on the actual robots look a little better this time around, except I don't see why you have to give robots like beards and cigars and stuff like that.
And they turn them into, they give them accents, the Asian accent. There's so many bizarre choices that Bay makes.
But I watched your Apes special, and I hated the Apes movies growing up. I don't know why. I love Godzilla. Hated the Apes movies. And then I was going to give him a chance when my favorite director, Tim Burton, redid it. And you know how that worked out.
Oh, it was great.
And that was like the beginning of the end for my favorite director, Tim Burton. Like, after that, I don't know where the guy's been. Maybe Sweeney Todd. But he can't even take credit for that. But the Apes, I mean, Rise was great. And then this one was just freaking amazing. I mean, I was geeking out. I was turning to my buddy in the theater next to me. There were so many moments where we were just verbally expressing ourselves, not even just making sounds and grunts, just like, is this as good as I think it is? Or like, I mean, I just couldn't believe how great it was. And like, Andy Serkis deserves an Academy Award nomination. There's no other way to put it. I mean, if he was great as Gollum, this is just next level. I mean, I will follow Caesar into battle. I will die for Caesar.
For me? Oh, cool. Okay, yeah, I play Caesar in the Caesar and Otto films. Thank you.
Yeah.
So Jojo's got a question for you.
Uh-huh.
When are you getting back into acting?
Oh, I did a play actually a couple of months ago out here. I would love the chance to get back into acting. I mean, it's weird. Like, I was very much in food, and then that led into the hosting, and then the hosting led into hosting about movies. So if that progression keeps going, maybe I'll get the chance to act again. I feel really lucky just to be tangentially involved. I would love the opportunity. I mean, I'm really excited. I get to go to Comic-Con next week for the first time, and I get to like interview people that are in these big movies and talk to, the composer for Guardians of the Galaxy and the cast of The Maze Runner. So it's like, I feel pretty lucky that I'm getting to do a lot of this stuff, and I hope I get to act again too. But I mean,
I'll make a part for you.
Thank you. Yeah, if you make a part, I'll come and play it. Actually, my
Oh.
friend Shane is working on a film where hopefully I get to play like a really, really cheesy, awful food TV host guy, like the worst, conglomerate of all the bad TV food people in the world, like the cheesiest douche
The
nozzle.
Hell's Kitchen kind of guy, like
just
that.
like everything terrible. I mean, and that sounds like a fun role for me. I can play cheesy well.
Awesome.
Just grab some food and go, this is awful, this is terrible, I can't believe it. What are you, stupid? And just,
Just make sure to hit
berate.
people. Make sure to hit some people with some wiener schmizzle.
Oh, did you create your own line of wieners named Gertler's Worst?
Yes, I actually do. I make sausages. I have Wurst called Gertler's Wurst.
That's what she said.
Yes.
That's what I said.
It's always a great conversation starter when like I tell people like, oh, like we're in Los Angeles, so
Have you
inevitably
tasted
you're
my
talking to
wieners?
someone, and people are just like, oh, what do you do? And it's like, oh, well, I host this show, but I also make sausages, and that leads to fun talks. You go down a road with that.
So the question I have for you is, do you slaughter the animals yourself to make them?
I don't. I've been, I would like to get closer and closer to that process. In all seriousness, like, I would like to go and hunt and try to do that once or twice. I feel like if you're going to be involved in that process, you shouldn't shy away from any part of it. I'm not, if you're going to be part of how the sausage is made, I think that you should be, part of the process from the beginning. But no, typically, when we're making it on a very large scale, we're getting from other farms, so it's kind of hard to get out there and do all that killing myself. But maybe that's a possible topic for a film we could do.
Tofu, you need the tofu equivalent, my friend. You got to do some tofu hunting.
Are you a veggie? Are you a vegetarian?
No, I wouldn't date a vegetarian.
just
The same language. I'm a carnivore.
you got to take a day or two a week where you just go all vegetarian. Mix things up. It's healthy.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mix things up all the time. I don't just suck down meat. Well, just today, I stopped to make myself some Vietnamese rice noodle pancakes for a recipe I was working on. That was pretty cool. I had a nice vegetarian lunch with that.
What are the worst tasting foods you've ever had in your life?
Worst tasting foods I've ever had in my life? Oh, God. Something called sea squirts. I think I had it at a Korean restaurant. I was doing a show called Freakiest Foods. And one of the things we were doing was Korean octopus, which in Korea, they take the octopus right out of the tank, they chop it up, and they drizzle sesame oil and salt on it. And it's still squirming when you eat it, and it's like a bar food.
The control room
is going nuts right now.
The control room in unison, just gagged.
Yeah. You could see this online. And that was delicious. That was very mild. But then at the same restaurant, I had something called sea squirts, and it gave me the sea squirts. It was so awful. It tasted like dirt and ocean and just really putrid. And I still really am not a fan of black licorice. I know that's a real common one. I like fennel. I've come to like fennel.
Yeah, I like fennel too.
But I still don't like black gumballs or black licorice or the original Good and Plenty kind of thing. Not my favorite.
Yeah, so we're going to hit a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about comic books, so stay tuned.
Great.
And I think we got a little moment before commercial, but the question I'm going to be asking you that we'll come back to is, you're an avid comic book reader and collector, so you got to tell us some of your favorites. So keep that question in mind as we head out to commercial. We're going to be back in about a minute or two, and we're going to be wrapping up the show along with our question of the week. So stay tuned, everybody.
InRavio.com. For over 60 years, Hanson Carpet has put the customer first, providing only the finest quality products and service. And Hanson Carpet is so much more than just carpet. We also carry a wide selection of window blinds and shades, and our licensed and insured technicians can service any of your flooring or window covering needs. Browse our huge selection of laminate, carpet, linoleum, vinyl, and tile. Stop by our showroom today or visit HansonCarpet.com. No matter what your project, Hanson Carpet has got you covered.
Transmission of lice occurs from being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Like catching a cold or a flu.
You have guaranteed peace of mind in every bottle of Got Lice because all of our products are completely natural.
And organic.
But strong enough to cover all your lice removal needs while being safe and effective. Our professional technicians are specially trained with our exclusive proven technique to successfully comb out head lice. We come right to your home at your convenience.
Whenever you want us.
We bring everything needed to perform a successful and complete comb out while eliminating your head lice. And we leave you with our exclusive complimentary products to use for the next 10 days following our treatment.
For free.
Our technicians also check all family members who have been exposed to lice. Please visit us on our website today at gotlice.co or feel free to call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at 646-257-0121.
Hey, this is Chris and Jake, and if InRavio.com spots you at an event wearing this bracelet, they will give you $100.
The world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, InRavio can get your message out there, and we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is InRavio.com.
Welcome back to our last 6 minutes of Nerdgasm with our special guest, Adam Gertler, from Food TV and from the Food Network and FX. So now, Adam, you're an avid comic book collector. Tell us, what are some of your favorites?
Well, growing up, I was always into Incredible Hulk and Batman more than anything. I think a lot of that had to do with those TV shows that were on that I was seeing the repeats of. And I still love those characters. And I still love comics, but as I've gotten older, I think the difference is it's not so much about who the character is anymore as like who the creative team is, who the writer is, who the artist. Much like, we're talking about movies. Just a couple of the comics that I've been into recently. Surprisingly, Matt Fraction has been doing this run on Hawkeye, which you wouldn't expect, but it's like it's like Hawkeye when he's not in the Avengers, when he's like on his own time, and it's like very noir, and it's just awesomely written. DC relaunched Batman in like something called the New 52, and this guy Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo is an incredible artist. So Batman's been kicking ass. It's actually, I think, probably the #1 comic selling is Batman. Obviously, some people have watched this show on AMC. And the reason the show is good and the reason a lot of these comic book movies are so good, source material, man. That's what makes a good movie. When like you can go to like 40 years or 10 years in The Walking Dead's case of source material. I love The Boys by Garth Ennis. This is very adult. This is about like a team of people that police superpowered teams, and superpowered teams are actually just corporate shills, essentially. Really good. The main character is made to look like Simon Pegg. Hopefully, eventually, we're going to get a movie of that. Brian Posehn, the comedian, is now writing Deadpool. Deadpool is just hilarious. He breaks the fourth wall. He talks to you. He kicks ass. That's a great comic. So those are some of the good ones right now that I've been checking out.
Okay, we're now into our question of the week. Now, this week's question, we're gonna throw it off to you, and then we're gonna disconnect you horribly. A question is: name a toy favorite toy that you grew up with.
This is an easy one. This was a toy that I wanted, I remember, for several Hanukkahs, and then when I finally got it, I was overjoyed, and that is the AT-AT.
AT-AT from Star Wars, of course. That was awesome.
Fully functional AT-AT with the guns that were moving, and you could stand up the characters inside. I've always had a thing for giant robots, and AT-AT is still the king.
Oh, wow. I never got the AT-AT. I never got the Millennium Falcon either. I got a bunch of Star Wars toys, but not those.
I didn't have a Falcon, but I had an AT-AT.
Do you still? I didn't even have the Falcon. I didn't even have the Death Star.
Did they make a Death Star?
No, they made the Death Star. It was like all strangely shaped, and it didn't really look like the Death Star after all.
I remember I had a friend that had a G.I. Joe helicarrier, and I thought that was just excessive. That toy took up his whole living room. It was huge.
So, Adam, we're going to toss this question over to JoJo. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to have you back on the show again, my friend.
I would love to come back. Thank you so much for having me. It was great seeing you again, man. Really.
Great seeing you, too.
FX Movie Download, Fridays at 8, only on FX.
Thank you, Adam, for tuning in and for joining us. Lovely JoJo, you now have a story regarding your favorite toy growing up.
Well, I wasn't really into toys as much as I was board games. Everybody loves Barbies, I guess, when they're younger, and me and my sister not so much. But when we did have Barbies, we used to steal the clothes from my aunt's house. Sorry, Anna. Sorry, Juicy. But we used to steal your Barbie's clothes, the jackets, the accessories, the shoes, and just hide them whenever you came home. But we were really into board games. We really liked like Mall Madness. Two of my friends had it, and because my parents were foreign and lame, we never had stuff like that. So we would always go over to my friend's house and be like, "Let's play Mall Madness," and that was like one of the best games. We loved it. We also loved Commotion. I'm pretty sure that's what it was called. We used to have to come up with a topic, and then you would all pick words associated with that, and then whoever had the most original names that nobody else had, then you would get points, and at the end of the round you would add up the points. But I think one of my favorites was Risk. I really liked playing Risk, and I loved dominating the world.
I could see that. I'll quickly saying that because we're running out of time. We got 1 minute left on the show. But my favorite toy was Magic Sand. Okay, this wasn't it wasn't like my favorite toy, but it was up there. Like you pour the sand into the water, and it would just like magically ascend, and you can create things that defy gravity. That and Wizards were a lot of fun. Aside from my Star Wars toys, aside from my Transformers, those
Besides the
were,
Dungeons and Dragons.
didn't really have the Dungeons and Dragons thing. But no, I think it was too complicated for me to play. I was a slow child. But the Wizards, you would spin them, these little tops, and you would spin, and throw it around, and that could keep me entertained way too long.
Dave loved the spinners, because they spin.
Control room. Control. I always wanted Hungry Hippos, but I never had it.
My cousin had Hungry Hippos.
Could your cousin come over one day?
No.
Oh, could you bring over the Hungry Hippo? We'll have a good time with it.
No.
Okay, well, on that sad note, that is the close of this week's edition of Nerdgasm. Tune in next week when we're going to deal with disaster movies with more of the JoJo family. Her sister is going to be joining us because her sister's nuts and so funny and hilarious. So we're going to be talking about these disaster movies, so make sure to tune in. We're going to have a great time. It's going to be a great show. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/NerdgasmOfficial. And make sure to show your friends the replay of this episode.
Me and my sister next week.
Thank you, and radio.com. Take care.